I'm terrified of what Max Verstappen is going to do to the grid after his first DNF in 43 races in Australia last time out. What's going on, guys? Welcome back. Today we are making our predictions for this weekend's Grand Prix in Japan around Suzuka. I love the Japanese Grand Prix, especially considering it's one of the few Grand Prix that actually take place at night for me rather than in the morning. So in theory, I should be able to stay up late and watch this race live in the evening. Worst case scenario, I know it'll be there for me in the morning. But nonetheless, we have some exciting things to talk about today as we make our predictions. We're going to be talking about our biggest positive surprise, our biggest disappointment, our qualifying top three, our race podium, and we'll finish things out with our one crazy prediction for the weekend. But as always, if you haven't already, subscribe down below if you enjoy F1 or sim racing content. Leave a comment down below what your predictions are for this weekend. What are we going to see? What are we not going to see? Maybe just as important. And as always, leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Let's go ahead and jump on into this with our biggest positive surprise. Here we are. My biggest positive surprise for this weekend around Japan is McLaren. After a few weekends of McLaren and the Papaya Boys running solidly in the points, Lando even taking a podium there in Australia, I think it's time we see an above average finish for McLaren, and I think that's going to include both cars. That doesn't necessarily mean to say we're going to see a McLaren win or double podium, but I think it's about time we see a noticeably good weekend from McLaren and see them fighting at the front a little bit more than we would have if Max had not DNF from the last race. So I think we're going to see something special from Oscar and Lando in this one, and I think they'll be fighting near the podium and potentially even fighting for a podium. So, McLaren, congratulations. You are my pick for biggest positive surprise. And as you may have noticed, and if you haven't heard already, we like to give our community an opportunity to have their predictions made as well. If you're interested in jumping in on the action, hit the link down in the description, join the Discord, and every race weekend, I'll make a call for predictions and you'll be included in the video. But for now, let's go ahead and move right along to our biggest disappointment. Moving right along to my biggest disappointment, I've gone for another team this weekend, and I have picked Aston Martin as my biggest disappointment. I think we've seen a lot of very solid driving from Aston Martin this season so far, but I think things have silently been running a little bit too smoothly, if that's possible. If you also include, if you take out Lance's crash around Jeddah, but I think we're going to see a lot of surprising results up and down the grid this weekend, and so I don't think Aston Martin is going to be immune. There's just an odd feeling I have when it comes to Aston Martin, and usually my intuition isn't always correct, but there's just something up in the air this weekend. I think we're going to see some surprising results from further down the grid, and that I think Aston just might unfortunately be the victim of. Rolling right along into it, we're talking about our qualifying top three, and I know that Max DNF'd in Australia, but he still took pole last time out, and the Max Verstappen takes pole position in the Grand Prix weekend is in full effect. Max Verstappen is my pick to take pole position around Japan and Suzuka. Red Bull are supposedly going to be bringing some upgrades this weekend that I think could see their RB20 take another step forward if that's possible compared to the rest of the grid. And so I think Max Verstappen is going to take pole, and I think it's going to be a very long weekend for anyone not named Max Verstappen. Moving on to P2, I've gone for a qualifying master, and it's not the one that has been lighting up the charts so far this season. I've gone for Charles Leclerc. It's been a quiet couple of weekends for Charles, finishing behind Carlos a couple of times already this season. And I think we see a return to form for Charles this time out. I know he was a bit disappointed last time with his lack of qualifying lap that would have seen him potentially fighting for a win around Australia. So I think we'll see a very good result here in qualifying for Charles. He normally does do very well in qualifying, and I think this weekend is going to be no different. So Charles, you're my pick for P2 here in qualifying. Rounding out my qualifying top three, and here is where we see the first step on our way to glory, Lando Norris. Now, I know that the McLaren hasn't necessarily been the best in qualifying, but there's just something papaya in the air this weekend, and I think we could be on for a McLaren decent weekend for once in terms of qualifying and everything. I know Lando did very, very well to finish on the podium in Australia. Could we see him carry that momentum forward? I like to think so. So Lando, you round out my pick for the top 3 in qualifying for this weekend around Suzuka. Moving along quickly to my race podium, I don't think we're all going to be too shocked or surprised by this at all. My winner for Japan this weekend is Max Verstappen. I know he DNF'd in the last race. I know the championship is technically closer than most of us thought. Max Verstappen is winning this race. And barring a freak accident or a mistake from someone else, I think Max is going to win this by effectively as large a margin as he wants. There's the rumor of potentially rain this weekend as well over there, and we all know what he's like in the rain around Suzuka. So Max, congrats on another win and another winning streak. I'm sure that's going to start this weekend. Moving on to P2, I've gone for Sergio Perez. I think Sergio effectively the same like he has at least the first few rounds of the season, out excluding Australia where he had some damage. Doesn't necessarily have the qualifying single lap pace of Max Verstappen, but that car and him have more than enough pace to finish P2 on the podium, and he's going to be no different this weekend, especially if he can gel with those upgrades like I think we probably will see him do. Rounding out my race podium, I'm mixing it up a little bit here. Mixing it up, papaya flavored podium here, Oscar Piastri. I think it's time we see an Oscar Piastri podium in 2024. We saw him on the podium last season in Japan. Obviously, the Japanese Grand Prix took place later in the season last year, and it's obviously very, very soon at the beginning of the season this year. But I think we could see a very, very fun weekend for McLaren. It'll be fun to follow, and I think Oscar Piastri rounds out my picks for the race podium this weekend. All right, it's time to round it out. Our final prediction, our one crazy prediction. And now, if you remember last time out in Australia, I predicted a Haas biggest disappointment because vibes were off. Haas had scored points and I was expecting the worst, but no. My one crazy prediction for this weekend in Japan, Haas scored points for the 3rd weekend in a row. I'm calling my shots. Whether it's by their own merits, by the unluckiness of the competition around them, I think this could be the weekend where we see Haas score points for the 3rd time in a row, fighting their way up the championship. It's time to be confident in Haas. Remember this moment if things don't go well. But nonetheless, I think we're going to see it, a Haasterclass in the making. Io Komatsu, new team principal in his first home race as the team principal of Haas, is going to cook up a masterclass. The car is going to behave beautifully. We're going to see 20 retirements. Not that last one. And Haas are going to finish in the points. I don't care if it's Nico. I don't care if it's Kevin. I don't care if Enzo. I don't care if Pietro Fittipaldi has to jump in the car as a reserve driver. Someone's getting points in Haas this weekend. We're going to overtake AlphaTauri once again. Sorry. RB, VCARB, whatever you want to call him, for 6th in the constructors. Book it, take it to the bank. It's going to happen. Hop on the train or get out the way. That's all I'm saying. But Haas, don't let me down. Score some points in Japan, will you? Guys, there we go. My predictions for the 2024 Japanese Grand Prix and my community's predictions as well. I'm currently last in our little community challenge when it comes to points for predictions. So hopefully this weekend I've chefed up something a little special and we'll see a very, very fun race weekend. But until then, I hope you guys enjoyed it. So remember to subscribe, leave a comment down below what you think is going to happen. And I can't wait to see this race weekend. Japan always seems to deliver some exciting action, and I don't expect this weekend to be any less than so. But guys, that's going to do it for me here in this one, and I'll see you in the next one.